back, strangers. My name is Bradley. We talk about the stranger things that happen in your normal life to give you a biblical understanding of what is going on. And there's a lot going on. So hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell icon so you're notified when things like this happen. Guys, my goodness. I was putting the show together tonight and I was thinking, man, everything is going on right now. And you don't want to miss a minute of it. I was thinking this is a kind of a collage show. It's not really one thing. In fact, I was trying to decide whether I wanted to go full UFO, full UAP talk tonight, or talk about all the other stuff that's been happening from the Olympics to everything. I'm sure this has been talked about over and over again, so I've actually got a different kind of spin on it that I think adds a little more value to what's going on, because I think every single channel has covered this Olympic thing that's been happening. So stay tuned for that, but we're not getting into that right after we cover some of the random stuff that's really strange that's been happening in this last week or so. So let's get into this. First thing on the map is Elon Musk. This is a fascinating clip. If you guys haven't seen this, I don't think any other channel has covered this yet. This blew my mind when he said this on this clip. Watch this.
You said something that caught me right away when we were discussing various issues just before we started. You said you were up till 4 in the morning.
Yeah,
so,
actually a little more like 5 in the morning. But
okay.
We got the XAI data center or supercomputer center training from beginning installation to start of training in 19 days, which is the fastest that anyone has ever gotten a supercomputer to train.
And is that in that new building off to the side?
That's in Memphis, actually.
It's in Memphis?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's where you were?
Yeah.
I see.
Memphis,
okay.
The capital of ancient Egypt.
Right. Yeah, you're bringing what?
Perhaps that's where our new God will come from.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Yeah, I wish that was funny. Yeah, okay.
What did he just say? He said Memphis. Oh yeah, that Memphis. I live beside Memphis. Boy, I didn't even know. Okay, Memphis, former capital of ancient Egypt. Oh yeah, that's where our new God hopefully is coming. And it caught the host off guard so well that he was like, "Oh yeah, I hope. Why? No, I." I wish that was funny. It's not. It's not funny at all. So play that last part again. That was, oh my.
And is that in that new building off to the side?
That's in Memphis, actually.
It's in Memphis.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's where you were?
Yeah.
I see.
Memphis,
okay.
The capital of ancient Egypt.
Right. Yeah, you're bringing what?
Perhaps that's where our new God will come from.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Yeah, I wish that was funny. Yeah, okay.
I'm not. I saw this clip and I hadn't seen it before. I don't know if it's old or new. I'm pretty sure it's new, but someone might correct me if I'm wrong. But that was, I believe that's a new clip because he is creating a new Memphis supercomputer, and this thing it's supposedly better than all the others. So it's obviously on his mind that this thing is going to be like God to people. Otherwise, he wouldn't say it. It was a Freudian slip. I mean, is that what that was? I mean, that's what I assume, because wow. So I'm gonna watch this whole entire episode and try to extrapolate what in the world he's talking about, because that was remarkable. That's all I got from that one. But I'm gonna dig into that further. Next, Tucker. Let's get rolling with these random clips real quick, then we'll get into the meat of it. But Tucker. He's at a Bitcoin conference and he's asked about God, and it really surprises him and it surprises the rest of the crowd. And watch what happens next.
I truly believe it was divine intervention that your dad's still here, and I've been praying for him for a long time, and I know the whole country is. I'm gonna keep praying for him, and I just want to know how God is leading all of you in your different areas.
Well, just the fact that your question got applause at a Bitcoin conference kind of blows my mind. I think a lot of people have arrived at the conclusion that we happen to be living in a pivot point in history, so things are just bigger and you can kind of see things more clearly than you would. And I'm running into people all the time, and maybe they don't have fully formed theological views. Most of them actually don't, and I'm from the most secular world you can even imagine. People are mentioning God in conversation, like a lot. And the second thing I think that people are starting to realize is the purpose of life really like buy a bunch of shit on Amazon and, you know, go to St. Bart's for a week? There is kind of a lack of meaning in our public life anyway, and I think we all feel it. And there's something in us that wants transcendence, and we shouldn't be ashamed to say that. Actually, I really think there's a religious revival going on in the country right now, and I see it.
There's a religious revival going on in the country right now, and he sees it. There is something else said about that revival. There will be a revival, a false revival, before there's a true revival. And I can't pull that quote immediately out. I'm sure someone in the comments will. But I find it fascinating that we as a country, you can see politically, this isn't a political statement, but you can see politically that we are gravitating towards that. And my theory is that the reason that's happening is because there's such an obvious slant going on in the media, in society. It's obvious that there is problems happening in this world, whether it be gender, whether it be anger, whether it be all this stuff, and people are saying, hold, let's get back to God. This is crazy. And there's going to be a revival that's happening. And the problem is it's going to be a revival that pushes with real teeth towards an incorrect way of worship. That's the end goal. And it's going to look really good. So keep an eye on that, because I believe that's what's happening next. According to Revelation 13, I mean, the Bible doesn't lie. So let's keep an eye on what's happening here, because every time I hear a revival is happening, I go, okay, I kind of shrivel a little bit and go, please let there be a true revival. But we know we have to see a false revival before a true revival. So keep an eye out for that. That's really interesting what's happening right now. That's not it though. So we got everyone's heard about these Olympic Games that has happened right now. Everyone has beaten that to death. I've heard everyone commenting on it, and it's not me. I'm not going to sit here and tell you exactly what everyone else has told you about. I'm going to show you something different, that from a different perspective, that I think that would really fascinate some people. But first, let's see what Trump had to say about it. I thought that was interesting that he commented on it. I didn't see very many podcasters actually looking into that.
Have you watched any of the Olympics?
I thought that the opening ceremony was a disgrace, actually. I thought it was a disgrace.
The mocking of the Last Supper.
I thought it was
Catholics and Christians across
I thought it was
the globe are outraged.
I mean, they can do certain things. I thought it was terrible.
Can you say at the next Olympics, if you're present, there won't be, you'll have enough influence on the organizers that we won't be, insulting Christians?
We won't be having a Last Supper as portrayed the way they portrayed it the other night. I just think, look, I'm for everybody. I'm very open-minded. You understand.
Yeah.
You know me better than most people know me. I'm very open-minded. But I thought what they did was a disgrace. He's
definitely commenting on this, saying that it's absolute disgrace and half of me goes, this is a political statement. He's trying to keep on both sides, but he realizes the Christian crowd is growing. And this is kind of my point. We have Elon Musk saying, hey, look, we have a new God that's forming. People kind of see there's a problem happening. We have crime rates going up. There's a problem happening. We have biased media. There's a problem happening. There's all kinds of other divergencies that are happening right now. Everyone sees there's a problem happening, and everyone is going and creating more of a Christian atmosphere, or at least being more vocal about it. Something's happening, folks. Something's happening around the world, and it's being, the pendulum is pushed. It is being pushed one direction. Press for Truth, they did a great job in summarizing this. I don't know who they are, but I saw it, and they did a better quick summary than any other channel that I've seen. And I'm going to play their quick summary for you. And I don't know who they are, and so I'm just presenting their material. But this is the summary from the Olympics, better than I could do it. Watch this.
Why did the opening ceremony zoom out of this shot that has a bunch of drag queens along with a child depicting the Last Supper of Jesus and his disciples? Why is that same child also dancing with these drag queens, one of whom did a runway drag show with children all around the stage? Why did they choose a woman to play the part of Jesus who has a goat's head Baphomet tattoo on her right arm? Baphomet is the androgynous, goat-headed deity that is both male and female and worshipped by Satanists since the 14th century. Why is Snoop Dogg, who carried the Olympic flame, also paying homage to Baphomet with a golden goat-headed necklace? Why did they choose what looks like a pale horse and rider, much like the one in the book of Revelation, chapter 6, verse 8, that says, "Behold a pale horse, and the name of him who sat on it was Death, and Hades followed with him"? Why was a nearly naked man painted blue lying on a bed of flowers, much like we see in this old Rothschild family photo from one of their parties? Why did they allow a man posing behind him to expose his testicles on national television? The same man who was playing the role of one of Jesus' disciples. And why did they choose the metal band Gojira to depict a beheaded Marie Antoinette, starting off the song with what sounds like a chant or spell or curse?
Ah, ça ira, ça ira, ça ira. Les aristocrates à la lanterne. Ah, ça ira, ça ira, ça ira. Les aristocrates, on les pendra.
But what I think is fascinating is that all this is happening, and some of it I think is a little reaching. I'll have to be absolutely honest with you. I won't tell you what those are, but I think that some of it is a little bit reaching. But at the same time, I think there is something happening here, and it's a good to think, you know. The French, they're not known for their Christianity. So, but I think more than that, I think we got to think about this. Oh, you know what? Actually, I saw a post recently on Facebook that I want to read by a good friend of mine that I think it really sums this up real well. I'll see if I can find it. But, no, I'm not going to be able to find it that fast. But the summary is this. When has the Olympics, when has... not the Olympics. When has games in general ever been about Christ? I mean, how are we so surprised at, oh no, they're not doing Christian stuff at a completely secular and mind-bending negative event that's focused on how well you can do something selfishly? I mean, that's it. It's not about trying to help the loser to the finish line first. It's about how well can I do it and how well can I get done and put the next guy behind me. That's the most, honestly, think about this. That's the most satanic thing that could be portrayed. And so when you have all these different symbologies, these Baphomet symbols, the onks, the triangle with the eye in it, we're going to go over those in a second. But when you have all these things, it really pales in comparison to what the Bible actually says is Satanism. Because all these symbols, they could actually change. Everything could change. There is not something, for the majority of them, there are some in the Bible, but the majority of them, there's not something in the Bible that says, and this is Satanism. Do not use it. What happens when we identify something as Satan, as satanic, and then we find out later it's actually being used by Satan because he wants something very similar? We're going to come back to that idea in a second, but I think it's something worth pondering as we look at all this symbolism and we think about this as Christianity becomes more part of society and eventually, as we know, takes on the role of Satanism. I mean, that's what's, folks, that's just what's coming down the line. We need to understand the character of what Satanism is and what Christianity is. Otherwise, we're going to be looking for symbols that are going to lead us down the wrong path. I'm dead serious. And I can give examples of that. I'm going to show you in a second. But before we do, what did we look at just a minute ago? Since I don't have a co-host tonight, I'm gonna look at my notes unashamedly, and we're gonna look at what this The View said about it, because The View talked about it, and they had some funny things to say about the Olympics, and the Olympics was gonna respond to it, and we're gonna see what they come up with. Watch this.
Over the weekend, the Olympics kicked off Friday in Paris. Woo! All right. But then there was instant controversy over an opening number featuring drag performers that some people said was a blasphemous take on Da Vinci's painting, The Last Supper. Now, organizers said, we're sorry, but, you know, the guy who actually put it all together said it was from the Feast of the Gods, which is a 17th century Dutch painting of the Greek Olympian gods, you know, the Olympian gods, because it's the Olympics. Okay.
Right, Whoopi. We know which side you're on. I think it's fascinating that they're really pushing us today. And if you've ever seen, I don't have the picture because I think it's in every other podcast. But the picture of this that they're saying it is portrayed as looks nothing like what they're trying to portray, and it looks a lot more like the supper. And I think there's proof in the pudding. And there's many people that have come out and said that. In fact, I think it's written in French in some of the things that has been talked about it. But that's not all, because the Olympics actually comes out, and the spokesperson for the Olympics comes out and actually talks about it.
Clearly, there was never an intention to show disrespect to any religious group. On the contrary, I think that Thomas Joly really tried to really intend to celebrate community tolerance. That was his word yesterday, and looking at the result of the polls that we shared, we believe that this ambition was achieved. If people have taken any offense, we are of course really sorry.
Ma volonté n'est pas d'être subversif, ni de me moquer, ni de choquer. Ma volonté est simplement de dire que nous sommes ce grand nous et que hier soir, c'était des idées républicaines, c'était des idées d'inclusion, c'était des idées de bienveillance, de générosité, des idées de solidarité, bref, de ce que je crois nous avons follement besoin. En France, on a le droit de s'aimer comme on veut, avec qui on veut. En France, on a le droit de croire ou de ne pas croire. En France, on a le droit, on a beaucoup de droits, voilà. Et c'était l'idée de faire transparaître ces valeurs-là à travers la cérémonie.
So it's interesting that he's pushing the idea of, look, we have freedom. We're going to use it. You can believe or not believe. That's interesting that he's pushing that idea. But at the same time, he's saying, look, we're all in this together. We're inclusive. That's what he was trying to push. I don't believe that for a second. I think that someone in there was really trying to push. In fact, the lady in the middle actually called herself the Olympic Jesus. But I that's not the only thing that's going on. I think it's worth mentioning that. Well, we'll just watch this. Snoop Dogg.
Snoop's gonna carry it on its final leg through Paris's famous suburbs! An honor befitting an American celebrity at the French Olympics.
Can we see the crip walk?
Right, what? Okay, so for a second here, someone's gonna have to explain this to me, because for what I remember, I'm gonna cut back to myself just for a second, because he starts to, well, no, I won't. This is called the Crip Walk. Isn't that isn't that a well-known gang? The Bloods and the Crips. This is being portrayed to the world on TV. What's going on here? That alone blew my mind. But what really blew my mind is what he was wearing. He was wearing this necklace with the goat head on it, and a lot of people say, "Well, look, it's Baphomet." Does he know that? I don't know. This is where I have a big problem, because a lot of people, I'm not saying you, listener, are doing this, but I come across a lot of people that say, look, so-and-so is doing this and he knows better. He's one of the insiders. And there are insiders. There's a few of them. Very, very few, I believe. But look, see, one of the insiders, he has this necklace on. If you were ever in media, ever in Hollywood, ever in music, you're when you're the onstage actor, you're nothing but the top. You're the puppet that is being puppeteered by the top. And so I suggest, and it's my theory, that a lot of these so-called well-known people that are in Hollywood and stuff, they're wearing this stuff. They're doing these things because they see other people doing it, not necessarily because they think that it is the way that they can be more satanic. Satan doesn't come to you and he says, hey, let's be evil together. He says, hey, I have an idea. Why don't you try it this way? And then you can be more successful. You can have more money, more power, more women, more men, whatever it is that you want. And I think that's what we're seeing here. So I'm not certain if Snoop Dogg is actually seeing this through the eyes of Satanism. Watch.
I don't know what y'all thought this was, but this is the GOAT. I had this made because somebody told me I was the GOAT. So I wanted to make me a GOAT chain. All that other shit y'all talking about, I don't know what y'all talking about, but this is the GOAT. Greatest of all time. With a blue diamond on his head, gold. GOAT. That other shit y'all talking about, miss me with that bullshit.
All right. So I cut some words out there. I hope you understood what he was saying. But is he lying? Or is he actually telling the truth and he truly believes he just wanted to be the greatest of all time? It's up for discussion. I'd like to see what you think in the comments about that, because perhaps he just really did think that it was a goat and he wanted a goat because he was the greatest. Or maybe the devil's like, hey, you know what? You want power? I'm going to give you power. You are the greatest of all time. If anybody doesn't recognize these symbols, though, there are symbols in the Bible that are worth mentioning. The goat was actually called the scapegoat. It was to be the devil. And some Christians, a very small minority of Christians, believe that this goat, I mean, let me get the big picture here. When you had the Israel going to the Promised Land, they had the sanctuary. The sanctuary had some amazing symbology with it. It was very important that they understood this, because this was Christianity as it is today even. People might be surprised at me saying that, but think about this for a second. When you come to the sanctuary, you have the lamb, you bring a spotless lamb. We all know who that is. That's Jesus Christ, right? So he was part of this thing. He was slaughtered. You wash your hands. That's baptism, right? You go, and inside the sanctuary itself, there's three things. Can anybody name them in the chat? You have the altar incense, which was prayer. You have the candlesticks, which were being a light to the world, shining your light, sharing the gospel or about Christ, being a priest of nations. And then you had the showbread, which represents the bread of life. Reading, understanding, communication with God all the time, your daily bread. And once a year, after the lamb was slaughtered, did it end there? No. You had these three things, and you had things after that as well. And so this represents the entire Christian life, even after Christ died, even after all the Old Testament, shadows of things that were happening. So when the priest came in, he would take the blood, sprinkle it on the curtain, and once a year he would go through and he would go behind the curtain. They would actually attach a rope to his ankle so that if he, went before it and he didn't have his sins all forgiven, he would die. They would pull him out because the Shekinah glory, God was with them, and he was in there with them. He would go and he would sprinkle the blood on the altar. Then once a year they would bring it to a goat. Sprinkle it on a goat, and that was the scapegoat. It was representing at the end of the world, Satan going out, and they would let this scapegoat go. Let it take its course by the elements. Really interesting stuff. And so this whole sanctuary message is all about Christianity today, too. It's not just about Christianity back then. And so when you're called the GOAT, you could flatter yourself and say you're the greatest of all time, or you could be being called Satan himself, according to Christianity. And so be careful what you wish for. That's the symbology behind that. But it's interesting that I don't think Snoop really got all that. A lot of people create this symbology and they don't even know why it works or what it's working. They just know there's some power behind it, maybe, and maybe it's back of their head, maybe it's nothing. Just like Tom Brady. Watch this. You've seen this before.
Any superstitions going into the game? Any special thing you carried into the game on Sunday?
I did. I've learned a lot from my wife over the years. She's so about the power of intention, and believing things that are really going to happen. And she always makes a little altar for me at the game because she just wills it so much. So she put together a little altar for me that I could bring with pictures of my kids. And I have these little special stones and healing stones and protection stones, and she has me wear a necklace and take these drops she makes, and I say all these mantras. And I stopped questioning her a long time ago. I did. I just shut up and listened. And at first I was like, this is kind of crazy. And then about 4 years ago, we were playing the Seahawks, and she said, you better listen to me. This is your year, but this is all the things you're going to have to do to win. And I did all those things, and by God, work. It was pretty good.
All right, so did he believe this stuff? Is he in on some secret society that was like, I better take this mantra. I better do these things. Otherwise I won't be the GOAT. I won't be the greatest of all time. Tom Brady was the GOAT. He was a big deal. And he left. He quit while he was ahead. But I think what's really interesting is he was deceived. He doesn't know a thing about what was going on. He was just like, yeah, his wife might have known what was going on. He had no idea. He was like, I'm along for the ride. Yeah, okay, I'm married to you. I'll go ahead and do this stuff because you think it's legit. Tom didn't know. I was shocked by that when he revealed that. The next one, obviously, is the symbology from. I'm pulling this stuff. I don't know if you recognize this stuff, but I'm very dissatisfied with a certain ministry that is talking about the Olympics right now, and they have a whole documentary about games and how important it is to stay away from competition, and they haven't said anything about it. And so there is I'm playing bits and pieces from there. This is the symbology behind it, but I think what's more important is, and what I wanted to emphasize when I created this documentary, was that it's more than symbolism. There's something else that's much more important that we have to recognize, we have to know about, we have to talk about, because symbols can change. I'm going to come back to that in just a second. Watch this.
Madonna kicked off her performance with none other than an overtly occult ceremony, being brought on a stage as a Roman high priestess or some sort of goddess. Her decor has elements of ancient Egypt, Sumeria, and even Babylon, and it resembles the Sumerian Babylonian goddess Ishtar. Ishtar was a powerful and assertive goddess whose areas of control and influence included warfare, love, sexuality, prosperity, fertility, and prostitution. She sought the same existence as men, enjoying the glory of the battle and seeking sexual experiences. Madonna's portrayal of Ishtar is therefore quite interesting, as one can argue that the pop singer has embodied throughout her career the assertive yet highly sexualized qualities of Ishtar, even achieving a state of power in the music industry that is only reserved to men.
So how does she get there? Is she one of the secret society people that's behind the scenes? Perhaps. But the problem with believing this, and this is the main point, take notes, when you start to believe, hey, I know something, I know that this person's a part of the secret society, they are in, you inside, be real with yourself for a second, do some self-reflection. How does this make you want to treat that person? Once you have this secret knowledge that they are a part of this secret society, well, it doesn't make you feel too good about them, does it? And that's not a Christian feeling. So regardless if they are a part of this whole thing, we need to treat them, at least even in our head, because we can hate somebody and murder them, according to Christ himself. Matthew 5 talks a little bit about that. And so what I think is fascinating is that we, as a Christian people, need to think about, if I believe these people are absolutely the creme de la Satanist of all this time, then you can't hate them. And maybe you think that you don't hate them, but the way we talk about them, and I've talked to many people, many people about this. Oh, these people, they're terrible. Oh, I don't like them. Oh, they're awful. And I think that's you're treading on dangerous ground. The Bible even says if we call someone a fool, this isn't the word that causes us that condemns us, but it's the manner, it's the character that we're creating around these people that causes us to sin. And so I personally would rather think these people are super deceived by all this stuff. I truly believe that there are a handful, it may be 2 handfuls of people in the world that truly think politically that they're worshiping the right God or anything. But I don't even know if that much, because I think back in the days of Marneau, Satan would have learned his lesson. All this stuff was leaked by Roger Marneau. Do you think he wanted to keep around a group of people that would leak all that stuff again? Or do you think he'd rather go into hiding, like he said he was going to do in the 1700s, and not have all that leak out, and coerce people through power, greed, money, love, all this stuff to get people to do what he wants? Deceive the world. That is his MO. Not have a bunch of worshipers. And so I'm very, very cautious when I think, are these people, is the symbology behind this, is it right? Is it showing that they are behind the scenes doing some bad things, or is it just deception? So to illustrate this, here you can see, anybody know what this is? This is the pentagram, right? You can kind of see a goat in there even. Everyone recognizes this as a satanic symbol. But what's really fascinating about this is, and I'm not going to come at you and say that all the symbology is good. It's absolutely not. A lot of this stuff is very bad. But also, did you know that a lot of this stuff is on Christian churches? Why? Why do you think that is? Christian churches. Skip to the next one. Look, an old Christian church with a 5-point star on it. Well, what's really fascinating about this, and I'm going to pull up my notes here, is that although today that pentagram would represent earth, fire, air, water, and spirit, or whatever Captain Planet powers combine, you would have, that would be a satanic symbol. It used to represent the 5 piercings of Christ. Yeah, I couldn't pull up the image because it was kind of graphic. But if you think about which were the 5 piercings of Christ, 1 hand, 2 in both feet, 3, 4, 5 on his side. And so they used to represent this as the 5 piercings in Christianity. This was in churches a couple hundred years ago. And so it's really interesting that this has been changed. Can it change again? Satan loves symbols. God loves symbols. Satan likes to have a symbol for what he's doing. God likes to have a symbol for what he's doing. Okay, let's move on. What about the not the pentagram, but the hexagram? Anybody recognize this? Modern, yeah. So the hexagram, to begin, this is not the Star of David. Everyone thinks that's the Star of David, right? Many people will see this as alchemy and think that the hexagram is used to represent all 4 of the basic elements. Well, again, the hexagram is best used in an array that deals with a wide range of transmutable material. An example would be Kimley's array below. It's fascinating to me that you see all this stuff, and it can also mean the Star of David. So you have two different sides in this whole thing. Is it bad or is it good? Here's another example. I forgot about my notes here. Hexagram can mean the union of opposites, or it can mean the Star of David. What about the all-seeing eye? Everyone's seen this before, right? The all-seeing eye with the triangle. Now, I'm not going to go so far as to say that all-seeing eye is anything Christian, but I do believe that these, and I don't have the Bible verses in here, but I can quote them. Proverbs 15:3 says, "The eye of the Lord is everywhere, keeping watch on the wicked and the good." Psalms 33:18 says, "But the eyes of the Lord are on those who fear him, on those who hope is in unfailing love." So how do we identify what is satanic and what is not satanic if these symbols can be changed? That's the whole point of this. Because most, not all, like the Baphomet thing and all this other stuff, I don't believe that's suddenly going to become Christian someday. But all this stuff can be changed around. For instance, this is a... Oh, I actually put the Baphomet thing in here. I guess everyone's seen that before. I don't think this thing's ever going to be Christian, ever, ever, ever. But there are some symbols that seem to be Christian. For instance, this is a UAP. We talk about UAPs on this channel all the time because it's an important part of the current spiritualism that is happening in this world. We see this. We see these triangles. And in fact, they're usually perfect angles. This is a bad example. But they're perfect angles, and people think that there's actually an object between them. I don't believe that at all. I think what we're seeing is actually the angelic manifestations, each individual one. And they fly in sometimes 3s, sometimes 5, sometimes more. And it's the externalization of the hierarchy is coming out. It's happening now, folks. And sometimes they portray themselves as groups of 3. Now, I realize there is a lot of a debate in the church right now. Every wind is blowing on this doctrine, and I'm not going to get into it. This is not the priority of this podcast. If you want to get into it, you can go ahead and comment your keyboard warrior yourself out, because I'm not going to respond to it. But I think it's really interesting that this symbology can change, and it has changed. So what happens someday if, and I'm just putting this out there, if God comes and we see an all-seeing eye? What happens if someday God comes and there's a triangle in the sky? What happens someday if Satan has stolen these symbols? And I'm not saying you have, because all evidence points to these symbols being very satanic. But what I am trying to say is it's very important that we stick to the Bible and the Bible alone when we're determining what is satanic. Because you can't look in the Bible and say, well, that's satanic, because this is absolutely a symbol of Satan. Symbols can change. This is the only thing you can know for sure is the character. Is your character right with God? How is the Holy Spirit speaking to you? We aren't supposed to look outward at other people. We can't even judge these symbols and go, oh, it's these people over here. They're bad. We're supposed to look inward, and we're supposed to not like that. We're supposed to look at ourselves with God and think, am I right with God? And that's, I think, the most important thing. Having your devotions daily, committing your life to God, praying to Him, asking forgiveness for your sins, and continuing to read the Bible and walk in its light that it's given you. So when I went ahead and created this documentary on the sports, the Olympics, and everything that's happening right now, I didn't focus on the symbolism as much. I put it in there at the end because it had to be created by another editor. But I wanted to focus on what it was that was truly satanic about sports. We don't see the all-seeing eye in sports. Not a lot. We don't see a triangle. We don't see the Baphomet symbol. But we do see the character in which causes people to do terrible things. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you need to go watch The Greatest Among Us. It's an amazing documentary. I'm going to take it from the ministry that isn't promoting it right now. But watch this.
Could it be that competitive sports are intrinsically designed to focus our minds on works-based superiority, and winning and losing psychologically creates a prideful or revengeful character? The Bible says that in heaven, little by little, Lucifer indulged in the desire for self-exaltation.
Thine heart was lifted up because of thy beauty. Thou hast corrupted thy wisdom by reason of thy brightness.
And due to his pride, Lucifer said in his heart,
I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will be like the Most High.
Though honored among the heavenly hosts, he ventured to covet homage due only to the Creator. In other words, the whole reason we are here in this sin-sickened world is because of the spirit and mentality of thinking who is the greatest. Could it be that this old snake is using the same subtle deception with sports and games to design young, impressionable minds to think along the lines of becoming the greatest? And could those mannerisms, desires, traits, and tendencies also influence the audience? The 1986 World Series, Red Sox first baseman Bill Buckner lets an easy ground ball dribble between his legs, rolling down the right field line. It was just a routine field error, but it was a disaster for Boston Red Sox. It was the 10th inning and the 6th game of the World Series. The game was tied, and thanks to Buckner's mistake, the runner on third had time to score, winning the game for the Mets and forcing a tie-breaking 7th, which, in the final innings, the Mets also won.
The Buckner moment ends the game, so it has the feeling of finality. And Buckner gets not just a disproportionate amount of the blame, he gets all the blame.
But Bill Buckner had no idea how this would impact him and his family.
The next day, the media, they asked me, how are you going to deal with this the rest of your life?
And no one is more eager to end this nightmare than the man who had such a prominent role in creating it, Red Sox first baseman Bill Buckner.
This simple baseball game had an enormous psychological effect on its fans and players.
I almost sought psychiatric help after that series. I was lying awake at night, wondering, why was it that I was still so upset?
Because it's not just a game. Your heart is into it.
Right.
Well, I'm from Boston, so no matter what you do to Bill Buckner, it's not bad enough. That's it's just you can't overrate what happened there. You broke the hearts of people in 6 states. It was not all his fault, but ball didn't go between my legs, went between his legs.
Bill Buckner doing one of these. What can I tell you?
Bill Buckner, every time I turn around, his team's getting between his legs, and he couldn't. And Billy Buckner got his pants adjusted so he could fit 3 balls between his legs. Keep his eye on the ball. End of the World Series. We've been waiting for decades to try to get a championship, and this lets the ball go. Bill Buckner can rot in hell.
Is this the type of character that adult sports instills into its fans? What are the children learning from one of the most watched games of the year?
And if you think that was enough, wait until you see what happens next, because I think Bill Buckner is that was nothing for the person that was playing the game. Imagine how this rippled through the rest of the crowd and went on to the rest of the city. You think that I'm just joking around? I'm not. This is something, because a little while later there was another baseball game that happened. And there was a guy that caught a foul ball. Well, he didn't catch it, really. He just kind of knocked it out while another player was trying to catch it. I'll let you watch.
Steve Bartman was sitting in an innocuously slow game of baseball when a foul ball flew towards him that changed his life forever.
Steve Bartman apparently deflects the ball. It lands at my feet, and one of the guys I'm with picks up the ball.
Pryor immediately turned to the umpire and pointed at the fan.
The umpire's all over it. The umpire right down there, Mike Everett's on the play. That's awfully
dangerously close to fan interference right there. If Alou has to reach into the stands, it's fair game for the fans to catch the ball. If the fan reaches out over the field, then it can be ruled fan interference. That is very, very close.
And as soon as that happened, the entire dynamic in that stadium changed.
As multiple fans raised their hands to catch the ball, so did one of the outfield players.
Obviously, he was upset that he didn't get a chance to catch it, but he really threw kind of a little temper tantrum, you know, a little fit.
I was so surprised that he was over there in position to catch it. I think that he was too. He was like, I'm over here, I got a chance to make this play. And then you stole it from me?
I was just right with him. What's with this guy? What is with this guy?
What fascinates me most about this is that if it's just a game, this shouldn't have happened. But we get such emotionally tied to beating another teammate and winning the game and pleasing ourselves by showing our superiority that it hurts us emotionally when it doesn't go our way. When we tickle our egos with the feelings of superiority, it leads to self-glorification of our own works and accomplishments. This repetitive teaching sears our brain with the characteristics that are not favorable for producing a Christian character. Like a disease, the spirit of rebellion is passed from player to fan to stadium and to cities.
You know what the fan who interfered booed is? They're chanting out here.
And before you know it, Waveland Avenue's chanting, now the bleachers are chanting, you know, now the grandstand's chanting, and that chant and the anger builds and builds and builds.
I remember thinking, if they don't get out of this inning, this poor guy is, you know, he's done for.
I heard, you know, there was a lot of being screamed. There was a lot of, we're gonna kill you, we're gonna, you know, this. And you know, at that time we were like, man, this is getting kind of out of hand. It's just a foul ball.
Yeah, we're gonna kill you!
This is one kid against an entire city.
Before long, they had to get security to escort Steve Bartman and his friends out of the stadium.
Whether we did anything wrong, it didn't matter. I just thought that it was going to get heated. Let's get them out of here.
Because there were fans then jumping down from their seats, getting in our faces, trying to stop our progress.
If that guy's smart right now, he takes that hat off, he takes his glasses off, and he changes his freaking sweatshirt.
I didn't realize, look at all the people yelling at him, going out.
And holding like a sweatshirt over his face, and I ripped the sweatshirt down over his face, and then the security guards pushed me against the wall, and then they came running up here with him.
Why did you do that?
Because I wanted to expose him for ruining what could be a once in a lifetime experience.
Someone ever convicts that guy of a crime, he'll never get a pardon out of this governor.
Police and news reporters camped outside his house. That was when it really started getting surreal and bizarre around here. You was like, wait a minute. It was like they were treating him like he was a guy who had somebody held hostage.
On the show, we finally got a call, some guy saying we have his address and we're gonna go out and we're gonna kill him tonight. And I was on the air, A, as a therapist trying to talk people off the ledge, and B, trying to calm people down.
Bartman still lives in Chicago, but his lawyer won't say where. He won't speak to any news agency or reporter. He has refused offers for hundreds of thousands of dollars to be on commercials or card games. There are even rumors that he can't use a credit card, else his name be revealed.
And we can go further and further into that. This show's not over, but I think it's important to summarize what we've learned so far is that symbols can change. We can't detect what Satanism is by symbols. And although it's interesting, we can't know if someone is lost and they're fully on one side or the other just by looking at their symbology. But we can know for ourselves what the truth is by looking at the character that things produce in us. And by the way, that documentary again is The Greatest Among Us. Right now, it's exclusive. You can look it on YouTube. I think that the thumbnail says we know who loses in 2024. I doubt they updated it yet, but it's talking about mostly the Super Bowl. But it's about it's quite longer than that, and it goes into a lot of detail. In fact, I'll show you one last clip talking about players that have actually come out of this. It goes. I mean, at the end of the documentary, you're like, wow. I really understand what sports and the idea of defeating somebody does to your psychology, what it does to your character. And there's players that have actually realized this, and they've gotten out of it. In fact, at the end of the documentary, I show this clip. Watch this.
At one point, number 60, Jason Brown, was one of the best centers in the NFL. At one point, he had a 5-year, $37 million contract with the St. Louis Rams. And at one point, he decided it was all meaningless and just walked away from football.
I'm living a life of entertainment, living a life of materialism, and I was ready to make that leap towards service.
All Jason knew is that God was leading him away from football, so he left.
My agent, he told me, he said, "You're making the biggest mistake of your life." And I looked right back at him. I said, "No, I am not."
I asked Jesus, with all of the gifts, the talents, the resources, all of those blessings that you've given me, what can I do more so than anything else to be a blessing to our neighbors? And Jesus said, "I want you to feed my people."
Well, clearly you trust God because you've never done a day of farming in your life. So,
Yes.
this is a calling, but the tools needed for it you didn't have.
I knew nothing about farming. And so the leap of faith is saying, all right, God, I'm going to walk in faith and not by sight. Everything that you told me to do, even though I have no clue how it's going to be accomplished, I'm going to keep walking in faith every single day. In God, there is no failure. And so I said, all right, God, I'm taking this leap of faith, but I got to place my trust in you that this is the most epic trust fall ever in the world. And you got to trust that he's not going to let you down. And guess what? He's not. That's how awesome and loving he is.
He says he has never felt more successful.
Not in man's standards, but in God's eyes. But when I think about a life of greatness, I think about a life of service.
Jason left all he had, millions of dollars, to follow Christ and the character he wanted to give him.
People talk about their faith, and then there are people who live their faith. And he prayed to God, and he said God spoke to him, and you hear "feed my people." Some people might just go out and donate to an organization. Wow. No, he literally is feeding the people.
Jesus, the lowly, humble, meek Jesus, gave his harshest scolding to his closest friends when they fought against one another as they tried to become the greatest in his kingdom. Matthew 18:1-5 says,
At the same time came the disciples unto Jesus, saying, Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? And Jesus called a little child unto him, and set him in the midst of them, and said, Verily I say unto you, except ye be converted, and become as little children, ye shall not enter into the kingdom of heaven. Whosoever therefore shall humble himself as this little child, the same is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And whoso shall receive one such little child in my name, receiveth me.
What I wanted to say at the very end here is that it's not sports. It's much bigger than sports. It's not the Olympics. It's much bigger than the Olympics. It's the idea that you are number one, that you can be the greatest among everybody, the greatest thing. I mean, that's exactly what Satan wanted. I will be like the Most High, Isaiah 14:12. So when you see all this stuff happening, the one thing that you need to remember in everything is that the symbol is the character that it produces in somebody. And when you see the character, the fruits that it produces, that's when you know it's satanic. Not when you see the Baphomet symbol hanging from a chain on their neck. These are all good things to think about, and think, why is that there? But no matter how someone puts their hands together, or hands on their hips, or behind their head, or has a funny handshake, we talk a lot about that on this channel. The ultimate goal is your character development. So is that something that you want out of this whole thing? If you want a better character, then I ask you pray with me. Father God, thank you so much for being with us tonight and guiding us and thinking about everything that we've seen through your eyes. Help us that now as we go about your will today. Give us wisdom, strength this week to see the truth in the character you would like us to see. We ask that you come soon and bring as many people that we know with us to heaven. We love you, God, and we look forward to the day that we're with you in heaven. Amen. Folks, I hope you've enjoyed this. I have. This is Strange Normal, and for some reason, everything's not working tonight. Let's bring it back now. I think one thing is clear, that it's hard to produce and run the show at the same time. So maybe I should just call up a co-host and actually do that next time. Folks, have a great night, and I'll see you next time on Strange Normal.